Alright, so I'm back, and today we're going to be doing the reviewer response on how to start a Transformer collection. Now, before we get started, I wanted to say just one quick thing. I was just coming up with like some guidelines, some ideas that some people, like I said, a lot of people were asking me how to start a collection, like a coherent collection. At the end of the day, though, the number one thing you need to do is buy the toys that you like. You know, if you start buying like Masterpiece and you start really enjoying the Masterpiece figures, then that's the way you should go. I'm not saying like this is the only way to do it. I was just coming up with some guidelines, and if and I know some people like on Facebook are sitting there like, this review is pointless because of the fact that you should just buy what you want, and part of me agrees with them. I think you should just buy whatever figure you want. But at the end of the day, I was just trying to come up with an idea to help people start their collections. So anyway, let's get started. There's a lot of content, so we had a lot of content to cover. So it's going to be a long one. Alright, so Jay Black says, also in a perfect world, you should get all the Japanese G1 combiners. But you will most likely go broke doing so. Yes, you probably will. I believe he commented before this too. Just the order that it's in right now is that. The G1 Japanese combiners are going to cost you a fortune. But if that's the way you want to do your collection, then I think for me, G1 is not the collection for me. But for a lot of people I know, they really enjoy collecting the G1 figures, and there's nothing wrong with that. And if you are able to collect the entire series, that alone will be more than rewarding for you. Let's see. Sammy Turner says the only good Autobot out of Energon was Omega Supreme. I have to disagree with you on that because Landmine was pretty freaking awesome. I really like that figure. I was actually debating on buying one not too long ago. I saw it go up on Facebook, and I was like, ooh. But Landmine, and then he had a repaint, which I can't remember the name of, but those guys were good. The Bulkhead one was pretty cool. The Bulkhead came with like this weird battle armor too, but you could just take that, set it off to the side, and he's just a good helicopter, and it looks a lot like Springer. So it's a pretty decent figure there. The basics were some of them were decent, most of them were garbage. All the deluxe were garbage. I cannot stand the deluxes. Optimus Prime himself was the Voyagers. Oh my god, the Voyagers were just a new world of garbage. Just absolutely couldn't stand them. Anyway, moving on. Sammy Turner then says, the only thing I would add is playability. If you're like me, playability is important, which means you're not afraid of transforming it. Or do you want something up for display on the shelf, not to be touched ever? So that's an important one to me too. I don't play with my figures that often, but every now and then I do like to take them, just grab them and start transforming them and just mess around with them and then put them back on the shelf in alt mode or something like that. So like, MP10's a great choice. MP Soundwave's a great choice. Most of the Chug line is a great choice. Things like X-Transbots anything, not such a good choice because like Apollyon, you transform him once and he's broken. I believe the original Blaster with the chrome paint, you transform him once and it starts chipping off. I know they're redoing him now without the chrome plastic, and I'm debating on getting him, but and I know that's KFC, but KFC X Transpot's pretty much the same thing at this point. but some of their figures just, they're not meant for that. Either there's like Lone Wolf or in my opinion, the Fans Project Combiner, Minosaur. That thing, it's like you get it into combine mode and you leave it there. It's awesome in combine mode. They're awesome in robot mode. They're awesome in vehicle mode. But getting them to point A to point B sometimes is just a nightmare. Moving on. Sammy Turnage also says, I actually like the Omega Prime and Megatron from RID. And Scourge, even though he was a repaint of G2 Laser Prime. Scourge, awesome. The Prime was pretty cool. Magnus was decent. And the Megatron was cool. If you're a fan of like Beast Wars-esque figures, because he was a two-headed dragon. If you're not, then I wouldn't bother with him. The three brothers were repainted Universe, and poor Sideburn was repainted to two different females for BotCon. Yeah, the three brothers, engineering on those things was amazing, but they were also a pain in the ass to transform. At least the van, I don't remember who that one was. The van was a pretty big nightmare to transform. I just did not like it. But yeah, those guys got repainted a lot too. Jay Black says, personally, I think that you should start with 84 G1. I was born in the 70s. Get the complete seasons 1, 2, 3 movie toys. Also, you get all the combiners from years 1984 to 1992. All the United States G1 combiners, 10 in total. 10 in total. Let's see here. Let me see if I could do this. Devastator, Superion, Minosaur, Predaking, Abominus, Computron. I know there was a G2 Devastator, a G2 Superion, and a G2 Bruticus. Oh, and then Bruticus. And Defensor. So that's 11. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely lost. Everything we know started there. So that's where you should start. Once you're done, you start adding the new masterpiece or third-party masterpieces to the collection. My personal goal is to have all G1 toys and all of them represented in MP style. So sometimes, however, you'll have additional versions like with Devastator, Combine Wars, Gravity Builders, Make Toys, and G1. It also has to do with the year you were born and what you saw growing up. Yep. See, Jeff Perrin says, as a kid, I had a handful of miscellaneous G1 figures, mostly gifts or from yard sales, flea markets. My first job had me buying Beast Wars. Me too. No, Beast Machines was my first, actual job where I started buying stuff. I think. No, Beast Wars. Yeah, Beast Wars. I did, mowing lawns to get Hooligan, but... let's see. But I started slowing down during Transmetals and stopped. Roughly around the beginning of Armada and a better paying job, I went back to G1, KO's current Armada series, and miscellaneous giant robots. Go Gaia Gar, Voltron, okay? And still collecting to this day. I can pull a figure out for just about any series you mentioned except for G2. Is it because I own a version of the mold already? Is it the gimmicks I don't like? Or maybe the bright neon colors I find tacky? Some people find G2 tacky with the neon colors. I grew up in the 90s, so it's part of me. So it's like I kind of like the offensive colors. Not sure, maybe just not my thing. For new collectors, I'm bad to take advice from because I buy Transformers from all venues. But if you go into third party, I suggest reading up and watching YouTube reviewers like John, yay, and others. I would say Bobby Skullface, and some of the bigger ones too, because you can get different opinions from different people. Find the reviewer that fits your personality the best. There's so many of us out there, and so many of us have different views on life. A good example of that is like I hate a lot of things. I embrace that hate in my reviews. If I love something, I love something, and I'll tell you. But if I hate something, I hate something. But like Imgo, for example, he loves everything. And so it's like, what your personality is. Those are two extremes. But what your personality is, you might want to go for that. Buy what appeals to you. I debated on which third-party Predaking to buy. A lot of research and viewing time brought me to either Unique Toys or MMC. First, anybody that's new into the collections and you're looking for a third-party Predaking, I'm not sitting here trying to say that I'm the best reviewer ever, but I did do a big comparison video with the 3 Predakings, where I compared each limb and then each combined mode. And I'm planning on doing that again with the Devastators that are coming out. Seeing Funny John says, you want me to chug calcium? Yes, I do. Drink milk. Victor Zan Van Haas says, how to start Transformers collection? Buy Transformer. Good point. But at the same time, you kind of have to watch what Transformer you're buying, because if you're like if you're into the Bay movies, I would not start buying Age of Extinction figures, because a lot of those were just or Dark of the Moon for that matter. Spend a little extra money, go back and get some of the first movie ones and Revenge of the Fallen ones to get you started, and then it'll be more okay to get some of the lesser great ones. Seeing Funny John says, death to the vehicle Transformers, all hail the Beast Wars. As for Beast Machines, waiting for a better release. Yes, I've been waiting for that for a long time. I want to collect a full Beast Machine shelf, but the figures that they came out with were all in wonky ass scales, and due to the concept art of the figure getting transferred over to the concept art for the show, and then the actual release of the show, like the Tankor looks nothing like Tankor from the show. So that's not a very that's why I rated that as one of the worst toy lines of all time. Just it was bad. Heath Hinton said, "Hey John, do you put Prime cartoon series in animated?" I think I forgot Prime when I was talking about it. That was a very good series to me, with some transformations a bitch to do. The best of the series was Wheeljack, but I will admit the whole beat transformation was a bit much. Enjoyed the video, plus when it comes to toys, I always go with official Hasbro. It's like, you want leather or do you want pleather? They both feel the same, but which has more value? I like I said, I understand. I'm full on in the third party, but I can't blame anybody for not wanting to be in third party, because sometimes it's a hit or miss on whether or not you're going to get something good. And as far as Prime goes, I think the Prime line was pretty good. It had its issues mostly because of the fact that we didn't get all the figures. We didn't get everything American release. Like, you have to pay import prices and insane eBay prices to get breakdown. Or Unicron. They had the first edition, which was really good, and then they dumbed them down for the regular release. I will argue Wheeljack and say the Viacons, the RID Viacons were awesome. Absolutely great transformation. The way everything folds up and it compresses, and it's like he's got no back kibble, even though he's a car, and it's like, oh my god, that thing is awesome. I love that thing. Anyway, Seeing Funny John says, well, that will be a childhood ruined video. Wow, Transformers joint from Japan. Didn't see that coming. Jeff Parent replies to him, he forgot to mention Cybertron Galaxy Force was yoinked from Japan. Override was a dude. He got gender bended on his way overseas. Then CM Funny John says, he. I can tell you that Eraser got the same treatment. Yeah, I remember that. Awkward, huh? I thought your name would be spelled like Jigglypuff's original name. EOL. Jeff Franks. Eraser, I know this. You know this. Don't think John does. I actually did. I think he's only seen the English version. I've only seen the English version, but I've done a lot of reading on it. One of the things I will quickly mention, because I remember reading this, Bad Spark, which was the first appearance of Rampage in the series, had a theatrical release in Japan, and I would pay a lot of money to be able to go sit in theaters with a bunch of geeks to watch Bad Spark. That would just make my day. So I do know a lot of things about it. I never watched the Japanese Beast Wars shows, but I do know enough about those. I'm a huge Beast Wars fan, so I do a lot of reading on that. With the like the G1 Japanese stuff, I don't know much about because I never really cared about it. As far as I'm concerned, season 3 and 4, the 4 or 5 episodes of season 4, that was the end of the series for me. And I never even watched the whole thing until not too long ago, actually, until it got reissued through Kids Rhino, I think was that did it last. Or whoever did them last. That was actually the first time I actually was able to watch the whole G1. So I never knew all that stuff about Japanese stuff. That's why it's like when somebody mentions like Dino King or Grandius Six Shot or his son or whatever. I don't know these things. I don't. Let's see. In the timeline storyline, Eraser was originally Wing Saber. Jigglypuff, nah, it's not Purrin. John pronounces my name incorrectly. I'm sorry. Sound it out. Perrin. I told him before, but it's fine. Most people get it wrong anyway. I'm terrible with names. Do not. I'm terrible with names. Just. Yeah. I actually, until I was like 12, I mispronounced my own last name. So. don't get me wrong. I'm just bad with names. Bad with pronunciations. Just terrible with stuff like that. CM Funny John says, he'll find out in the next video. Wing Saber, interesting. Well, I'll remember. Would love if they tell Night Scream's story, while Beast Wars is going on. I hated Night Scream. I don't want anything to do with him ever again. I thought he was a fucking punk emo kid. Oku? I know he told me how to pronounce this too, but I don't remember. Your 5 of each line idea reminded me of when I just started collecting 6 years ago. I thought about collecting the best 2 to 3 figures from each line, but I quickly figured out I wouldn't be able to stand those dated designs on my shelf because they're not fun to play with. I play with my toys, so I decided only collect the latest lines: movies, Transformers Animated, Transformers Prime, and Generations. Then at some point I decided to only devote into a single line. I went back and forth between movie, Transformers Animated, and I resell and rebuy figures multiple times for years. I do that too, in case you guys didn't know. Recently I finally decided to only have a rather small collection based solely on 4 main criteria: price, engineering, aesthetics, and scale. Since most figures qualified, my standards for these 4 areas came from Chug. my scale is based on these figures as well. These move have been saving me. This move has been saving me a lot of money because MPs don't fit that scale besides Grimlock. Yeah, like I said, MP is an expensive one, so if you're working on a budget, Chug's a better option. In terms of engineering, I'm after transformations that are either clever and fun, smooth. They don't have to be complicated. For example, already Viacon, most of the Transformers animated and older Chugs. I also found out most of the figures I like are designed by, I'm not even going to try this name, designed by this guy. I read about the young designer and learned he's very devoted to making transformations smooth and fun. If I should change my collection direction again, it would collect all toys designed by him. See, now there's another good idea, to go that route. For those who don't know, he designed MP10 through MP22, Combiner Wars Devastator, and co-designed most of Transformers animated figures. Unfortunately, Hashtag is not very transparent about which toy designed by who. TF Wiki has a list of toys we know so far that were designed by him. I'm sure he's designed more toys, but we haven't found out. However, after handling many of his designs, I can sort of tell the figure is likely to be decided by him. Sorry for the wall of text. Don't be sorry. That's what this whole thing is. I think I did read about him, and that somebody else is now taking over the Masterpiece designs, and that's probably why Trax wasn't as good as the other ones. Now, when we talk about Trax, real brief, because I know we're on time crunch here, but I know in my video I kind of bashed Trax. It's a good figure. At the end of the day, it's still a good figure. It's just not up to the Masterpiece standards that I'm used to. That was my issue, more than anything, because I'm used to cars like Sideswipe, Wheeljack, even Bumblebee, which have just incredible engineering and just flawless transformations. And Trax just doesn't quite fill that void for me. So, anyway, moving on. The Fluffy Hub, this video is helpful. I'm currently trying to GT Combiner Wars. I think you meant Get Combiner Wars. But only one when I turn 18 in about 4 years. I will move out ASP and get a job and set a budget. Okay. Esseres, ESERES, that's his name. Starting your own collection is mostly about personal taste, economy, and attachment to whatever line of figures you decide to collect. I grew up with the Transformers cartoons in the 80s, but I'm not a full-on Transformer collector. However, I do collect the Masterpiece line, but I do not buy the repaints, even though there may be different characters. As far as the Transformers go, scale is important to me, as well as aesthetics and engineering. That's why I only collect Masterpiece figures. And as far as the transformation goes, I understand that. Why buy multiple versions of the same toy? I'm going to buy everything eventually. But I can understand some people not wanting to buy. It's like, I already have this figure. Especially like Seekers, where there's like so many of them. And it's like, why would you want to drop that kind of money? I can understand that. Now, I could go on and buy every figure that gets released if I wanted to, but that in the end would cost me a lot of money, which in turn could prevent me from getting a figure down the line that I really want to buy but can't afford. So my advice is to try to stay away from repaints if you can, because then you'll save your money so you can buy a new figure mold. That's actually what I've been kind of doing with planning on doing with DX or Unique Toys, Retgar and Mirage, because they were repainted repainted and retooled into GoBots, and I'm more leaning towards buying the GoBots and looking at them than I am actually Mirage, because it's like I don't need two Mirages, and I'm probably going to get the MMC Sphinx whenever I can. Let's see here. To me, it's not important to have all the figures, but just the figures that mean something to me personally. Also, shelf space is an issue as well. If you buy everything that the stores put on the shelves, you end up with a lot of figures that transforms the same way, and now you don't have any space left for your new figures. This will in turn maybe force you to either sell the older figures, which you know you won't get you all your money back, or you'll end up packing down a figure and store it away, and that's no longer on your display shelf. So before you buy a figure, always think through if you really need that specific figure. See, that's a good point. Although you can always just buy a bigger house. Another thing to think about is, are you going to play a lot with the figures, or are you just going to enjoy it on your display? If you're going to play around with it, I wouldn't suggest that you buy the expensive ones, as the figures some days might break. All figures will break. That's a given. So yeah, I understand where you're coming from. But if you're like me and are all nostalgic about the figures you choose to collect, then I'd prefer to buy the best representations you can find, which would lean back towards Masterpiece, and spend whatever the figures cost and take very good care of it. Your collection is whatever you want it to be. The size of your collection is not important. You can have only a very limited few figures, and it's still a collection. Be mindful of what you choose to collect. Don't spend your hard-earned money on something just because it was on the store shelf. Watch reviews on YouTube and wherever you see that others say about it, and then make up your mind and if it's worth spending your money to you. Don't buy a figure just simply because you're afraid that you'll miss out on it later. For the most time, a lot of figures get a second run or a repaint later down the line. That's true too. I mean, look at Quake Wave. Everyone was scrambling to get a Quake Wave once Masterpiece really hit a better steam. And his price was up to like $600 mint in box. And now he's getting reissued in many colors. And Takara's releasing one. And there's a knockoff one coming out. So it's like, if you miss out on a first run of something, don't ever sit there and be like, I need this figure now. Hell, look at the Hasbro Starscream, the MP Starscream. Yeah, he's going for a little bit of money now, but when the Takara one first came out, that was $200, and then he got reissued for $60. So sometimes it's just worth waiting for something like that. When you choose to collect a line of figures, this is still the same guy. When you choose to collect a line of figures, try to stick to it instead of collecting all kinds of different ones. This will make it a bit easier on your wallet. Personally, I only collect the MP Transformers and 1/6 scale figures on a regular basis. However, I do like to pick up some other figures every now and then, just because I either like the movie, the game, the movie, comics, or something like that. It really boils down to what's your taste and how much money you can afford or are willing to spend. Don't forget about storage space. I'd like to finish my comic with an advice I once got from another collector. Sometimes it might be a good idea to wait a few days before actually buying something. He tried to wait about 30 days, but that might not work in all cases. But still, give it a few days and see if you still want it. Want whatever you're thinking of buying. You might change your mind about it, and as soon as you've paid for it and have it in your hands, you might regret it, and then you're sitting with a figure you no longer want, as well as less money to spend on another figure you just started to eyeball. This is at least my thoughts on collecting as well. As for my advice for new collectors that are thinking about getting into the game, sorry for a long comment, but hopefully it will helpful to somebody. Perhaps not everybody will agree to it. Nobody agrees with anything. You can please some people all the time. You can please all the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. that's what my boss always says. Perhaps not everybody. Okay. Good luck with your collection, and I hope you'll enjoy your hobby as much as I do. Stay cool, folks. All right, and we got a bunch of replies to this. Okay, Jeff Perrin. I agree about your comments on repaints. I really got sucked into the Cybertron line. I think I have a repaint of every guy there except Scattershot, first Earth mode. I was in a mode that I was trying to buy the whole series and it got very close. Then Essers replies, yeah, I was about to do the same thing with the Masterpiece figures myself before I changed my mind. It's enough for me to just have the mold, so I stick to the most known version of the figures. But there are exceptions to some cases, though. I'm getting the MP Ironhide and Ratchet's figures, which basically are the same mold, just a different head. I'm also thinking about getting MP Skywarp and Thundercracker. Have the Hasbro Thundercracker, but want the Takara one. Because they were characters from the original cartoon movie. I'm not sure how far I'll be following the MP line, but I've made up my mind on getting as many of the movie characters as possible. I'll only stick with Takara. But I had to make an exception as far as Megatron goes by getting X-Transbots Apollyon, since Takara seems to skip on an updated version. Well, their gun laws are so strict over there. That's why they won't make one in the proper scale, because that would make him in the gun mode. His gun mode be in the proper gun scale, and that's something they were trying to avoid. Anyway, but I think it's stupid to waste money on a pure repaint with no differences in the mold. All it is just a way to milk your wallet. There is only one way to justify repaints in my eyes, and that is if it's cheaper. Yes, they should be cheaper. The more they repaint it, the cheaper it should get. That's one of my complaints about Combiner Wars, is because every time they repaint them, price goes up a little bit. And it's like, it's just off-road with red paint. Named Ironhide. Why is this $1 more than it was? It should be $2 cheaper. Anyway, Jeff Perrin replies, I feel you on MPs. I have everything so far except for a couple figures. Takara MP04, 7, 9, and 11. I have Takara, Skywarp, and Hasbro Thundercracker, as well as Takara first issue Starscream and first version Hasbro Starscream. Would prefer the 2015 version Starscream. I'm grabbing Ironhide and Ratchet at some point too. And Apollyon looks so good right in the center of those Decepticons, even with MP05 looming behind it. Essers then replies, yeah, I got, let's see. I think we're just going to stop that reply. We're just going to move on. I'm sorry, guys. There's a lot of comments. We got to keep this moving, and it sounds like you guys are just having a conversation with each other, which is fine. But not the best for going over comments. TFYU Smokey 102. The best part of collecting multiple lines is that once you start to pay too much or get bored with a line, you could sell them off for spare change and buy other figures that have a markup, or buy the Takara versions. That's a good point too. I discovered good breakdown. I can tell you put a lot of thought into this. I started collecting this this year, mostly Chug, MP, but switched to only MP. That's a good choice, I think. That's what I've been bouncing back from. Is MPs. Matthias Morkabus. Huffer was meant to represent a Japanese-sized cab, while Convoy was to represent a more Western-style tractor and trailer. With that being said, Huffer and later Pipe should be bigger than Bumblebee and Cliffjumper, and at the very least Autobot car size. I think they all should be mini-bot size. That's me. They were all about the same size in the original cartoons. So that's where I want to leave them. 7TGM23. Great rant. Collectors evolve over time. I started with G1 reissues. That got me collecting as an adult. Then Binaltech alternators. Once MP came out, I switched to that. Sold the rest, and now I have a mix of official, third-party, and KOs. I like the comics as well, so I have some IDW Neos as well in a separate shelf. Combiner Wars fits in with the comics as they are drawn like the toys as advertising. Todd M. The only thing on that I will argue with is I think well, no, I'm not going to argue with you, but yeah, that's kind of the issue I'm having with Combiner Wars is that IDW is catering to Hasbro rather than caring about what the characters in the comics look like, and continuing with that. It's like Hasbro, like, it was over there, hey, we're doing a new Ironhide figure, he looks like this, and IDW was like, okay, I guess Ironhide's going to change his form, shit like that. That bothers me. Monkey Bubble says, cool video, John. Some excellent tips and advice. Speaking of Orbitron doing a Ruination, that is something I would love to see, especially if they did the urban camouflage version of him. White, medium gray, dark gray, and black. Oh, that was Universe. The first Universe line, Walmart exclusive. Where they were like kind of the snow camo. That was awesome. I also like the tan ones too. The tan camo. I don't care. I just want to see a Ruination. Give me a Ruination, please. And speaking of repaints, I'd like to see an MP10 Sleep Convoy. I don't want to see that. I think they should. Kind of calm down on the MP10 repaints. I think there's quite a few of them out there now. Alright. Night Wingdom 1. Like your rant, and I am buying Masterpiece on a budget of 2 to 3 a month. I don't mind the slow going if I can get the best representations of the characters I grew up with. Thank much. That's where I would be if it wasn't for the reviews. I try my hardest to get as many figures as I can so I can do reviews. But at the end of the day, the ones that actually end up in my collection permanently, 2 or 3 a month. Like I'm buying a lot of these Constructicons, but most of those are going to get sold once the videos are done. So look for a big sales thread right after that's said and done. Kobiaks. Oh, there's another long one. My biggest tip for starting out is to start small. Try to go for the smallest of what the line offers. Scout, Cyberverse, Legends, Basics. Get a feel and see if the line's for you. Problem with that is, like, Combiner Wars, the Legends figures are awesome. Absolutely incredible figures. But then you get into the Voyagers and Deluxes and you're sitting there like, why am I in this line? Now, I can understand, like, if you're going to buy, like, maybe an MP car to kind of test out MP, they get like Sideswipe or Prowl or Wheeljack, and then you're gonna be in. That way, if you don't like the line, you have a nice easy out. If the line is not for you, once you get a feel for it, then you can move up to the more complex and bigger figures. An example of that would be if you wanted to start Cybertron and Galaxy Force collection. Start with the Scout figures: Armorhide, Clocker, Scattershot. They're all good benchmark. They are a good benchmark of what the line offers, without being bank breakers. After that, you can move up to Deluxe Bots, Voyagers, and maybe a Mega if you feel like it. Then you can start going for the big ones: Primus Prime, Megatron, Metroplex, and Starscream. Don't forget Starscream. He was like Supreme class there too. Also, as tempting as they are, stay away from third party if you're starting out. Yeah, I agree. They don't have the same build standards as first party Transformers. As such, they can be far more fragile or fiddly than official transformations, on top of being far more expensive for both new and aftermarket. Also, don't assume that third party equals better. For some companies, Fan Toys, Mastermind Creations, that's true. I'd also put DX9 in there. Giga Power is getting there, and Make Toys. The Masterpiece line for Make Toys is there too. But for others, they will give you headaches in the long run. Believe me, I own the Microblaze Creations Military Titan set. Yeah, that was a nightmare. I think that company folded, or at least I hope it did. Also, the one figure that you really want and will complete your collection will be $150 on eBay and will be sold out everywhere else. I'm still trying to complete my Rail Racer. See, Monkey Bubble says, Energon Optimus Prime. Surely you mean Fatimus Prime. Yes, that's a terrible figure. Optimus Danger says, Transformers Masterpiece works for me. Brad Denton says, great video. As a side note, I'm loving the Monomarth t-shirt. I've seen them twice live. Awesome show. Awesome show. Not as good as Devil Driver. Devil Driver, dude, Dez has the best charisma of any metal lead singer I've ever seen. I've seen Slayer and Megadeth live, and while everyone says they're better bands than these smaller ones, of Monomarth and Devil Driver, they just came out there and they said, "Hey, we're Slayer," and they played their set and left. And I was kind of like, "That's it? No interaction with the crowd, nothing." And I was kind of disappointed. But Dez and a Monomarth, I don't know his real name, but they talk to the crowd. They get the crowd riled up. They get them ready for the mosh pits and stuff like that. They're making jokes. They're having some fun. I always like when Dez comes in and he comes up on stage. He's like, "Oh, you're in Colorado and you take a whiff of the air," because marijuana is legal here. So I find that hilarious. I don't smoke it, but it's just hilarious when people say that stuff like that. Let's see here. TFYU Smokey 102 says, I wonder why it's not Churg, because Reveal the Shield was technically a different toy line. Reveal the Shield, though, was also half movie line. So that's probably why they don't count that into that thing. But yeah, part of it should have been in that. N1G2T3S4 says, I love the Masterpiece line, but it takes so long for anything to come out. They're not flawless, but they are so evocative of the cartoon I grew up with. And third parties are constantly surprising on how much they've upped their game. I started by collecting by Frankenstein whatever figure appealed to me, then switched to grabbing several variations of my favorite team. The Dinobots, collecting figures to fill out shelves around the themes may be way to go. Daniel McClung, a long video, thing. Great video. My personal collection is actually as simple as it is strange. I go for G1 type or scale, style, or a combiner in any line. I'm looking for either comparable to the G1 toy or to the original series. I have some of the Combiner Wars, some Masterpiece, and a ton of original G1 and re-release figures. Masterpiece and 30 parity are much more difficult to get, but I have been able to find several at a good price. KOs are also not excluded from my collection. I do stay away from G1 KOs, but that's mostly because finding a good seller. That isn't trying to charge G1 minted bot prices. Yeah, that is the problem with the G1 KOs, is that people are selling them as the real ones. At least with the Masterpiece KOs, they're actually saying these are KOs. That's why they're half the price. Let's see. On my main shelf right now, I have Combine Wars Megatron with MP Soundwave with cassettes, MP Starscream, Fans Project Minosaur, Combiner Wars Devastator, Unique Toys Finner, Fan Toys Diebots, MP Grimlock. This one will change later. MP Optimus Prime, MP Prowl, and MP Sideswipe. Sounded weird until you realized the size of G1 Minotaur compared to the other combiners. He was tiny. It's like having two collections of one, but I really enjoy it. It's true. The original G1 combiners were a lot smaller. They were Optimus Prime size almost. In the toys, anyway. In the cartoons, they became massive, but in the toys, they were pretty small. Chris K says, well, for collecting, I would recommend that you wait for a good cartoon or movie to come out. Collect figures from that because the movies and cartoons get more shelf exposures than lines like Combiner Wars and Generations. Also, I have an idea for licensed Stunticons. That'd be pretty cool. An Age of Extinction Galvatron-like truck for Motormaster. The vehicle design screamed Motormaster to me. It did to me too. Not Galvatron. That vehicle, the robot design screamed, what the fuck, bae? To me, a Porsche 911 for Dead End. Kind of straight modernized for his G1 look. DHL Indy car for drag strip. Similar open wheel race car. And the yellow, orange, red, and white color scheme would make a much nicer modernization than the Combiner Wars. In my opinion, Lamborghini Aventador for Breakdown. A Countach updated to a Aventador. Rather straightforward. And a Ferrari 458 Italia. I'm telling you guys, I'm sucking at these names. The car from the car Dark of the Moon Mirage was for Wild Rider. A similar looking fake car was used for the Combiner Wars Breakneck. And yes, John, I know you have no idea what any of these cars are. No, I don't, and my jaw's hurting from talking so much. If you guys missed it on one of my earlier videos, I ripped the muscles in my jaw, so it's like it's hard to talk, it's hard to eat, it's hard to function. So this one is a very long rant of the week, so it's kind of wearing me out. Nightwingdom 1 says, we are starting to get used to the dog. Tell him hi for me. He actually didn't want to come downstairs today. So, first time in a while, he's not down here for review. But I will tell him hi. Mindarissa Maya says, I was out of collecting from the original RAD Unicron through to animated, and really got back into it with Generations, Chug, and the first Bay movie, and have cherry-picked the figures I want from each of the lines. Most times trying to get the best version of the figures from the line. I've recently started getting MPs more and more, and I have had more money to put towards my collection. Yeah, I guess that's a pretty good way. I mean, I collected most of Armada, most of Energon, most of Cybertron, some of Animated. And quite frankly, it's like, while I enjoyed the Unicron trilogy, or Armada and Energon, I didn't enjoy Cybertron as much, and I really didn't enjoy this Animated that much. They just weren't for me. The Cybertron one, like I said, the big problem there was the quality control. Same with Animated. Prime Dissident 82 says, I started with Masterpiece scale and just purchased things that fit or that are that Masterpiece hasn't made yet. I got Apollyon because he's the best Megatron available as far, and that's sad. As far as the G1 look goes, he's not good Transformer by no means. I've also purchased Fans Toy Scoria, Sever, and Soar because they are great figures and they fit my collection perfectly. In the end, it's your collection and you can build it however you like. That's true. Yeah, and don't ever let anybody tell you that you're doing your collection wrong because you got Masterpiece mixed with Chug, mixed with movie figures. You're not wrong. It's your collection. Do what you want. And also, don't be embarrassed you have a collection. I know, when I first started collecting Transformers again in my adulthood, it's like I would keep them in plastic tubs and hide them in the closet whenever company came over. Now, I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. If you can't like me for my collection, because I have a collection, well, go fuck yourself, because this is my hobby. Everyone else has their own hobby. Some people do video games. Some people do drugs. It's Colorado. A lot of people do drugs up here. So it's like, don't judge me on my toys, because you're spending all your money on drugs. This is my life. This is what I enjoy. This is my free time right here. I fully enjoy this, and I get pissed off when people, give me shit for it. I've had so many people like look at my collection and go, "What is this?" And they quickly become no longer friends. Anyway, Joseph Flanagan says, "Good rant. A lot of good ideas and info. I like to mix it up a bit and get the best looking toy for each character. But some of the toys have a special place, like MP Sideswipe. Yeah, MP Sideswipe, just an awesome figure. That's why unfortunately he's not on my shelf yet, because I have him over on my review station. I'm going to buy a second one so that I can have one on each shelf. Although I might end up getting like the G2 version just so I can have something different over there. Because I don't want to buy the exact same figure twice. I'm okay with buying repaints. I might even buy a KO and just glue it together. Yenin May didn't watch the full video, but I'm sure this is helpful to someone. To me, the collection is personal. I don't think there is any specific way to start a collection because it's easy. Just buy what you like. The harder part is how to stop and where to draw the line. That's true. It's like, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I mean, I'm having to force myself. Like, when I was at TFCon, I had to force myself away from the Make Toys table because I was just about ready to drop all my money on everything they had. And it's like, I don't even like the Computron figure. They just had a good price on it. I was like, I should buy that. And then they also had Giant for $300, Yellow Giant for $320. I'm like, I want that, but it's like, I need other things. Maybe it's easier just to be biased and share your own story and how you started. Still, thumbs up. That'd be a good video one of these days. Junk Garage says, I personally do Chug, mainly due to room. Masterpiece, while looking great, and I would love to collect them, I just don't have the room for them. Chug is really hard with scale, though. Just like you said, getting individual bots that look good together and work can be difficult. And I have sold off and rebought a few figures trying to get the ones that work together. Another issue with Chug is combiners. As I feel the Generations Toy and Warbotron are great Chug-style combiners, they do not fit in to the previously released TFC. Fans Projects Make Toys MMC combiners. MMC and TFC being better and able to work if you're okay with some combiners being shorter than others. I think TFC works good with MMC. Make Toys and Fans Project obviously work better together. And they also work pretty well with the Combiner War stuff. Then Warbotron's even bigger than everybody else. Let's see. Monkey Bubble says, personally, I do feel third-party combiners do fit in with the Chug line, but I will agree that Make Toys and Fans Project combiners don't. I feel that they are just too small for a combiner by today's standards. Nothing wrong with them, and those two companies' combiners scale well with each other, but not with anything else. Like I said, they do scale really well with Combiner Wars. Now, if you get Combiner Wars Standard, they work well. If you get Combiner Wars that get the perfect effect to upgrade kits, then TFC works a little bit better with them. Sorry, my jaw's really messing with me. Good thing we only got 2 more comments to go. Junk Garage says, agreed, Fans Project Combiner scale is based off the old Energon Combiner add-ons they did, where the limbs were scout-sized and sort of stuck with it. Monkey Bubble says exactly. So yeah, there you go. Whew, that was a long one. Not as bad as the Optobotomus one. Ugh, that was horrible. I mean, I keep deleting the thing, and it's like I come back to it, and I got like 55 more comments. It's like, oh my god, guys, leave me alone. I just want to be done with it. Anyway, so yeah, like I said, I mean, your collection is your collection. Get what you want. I just was coming up with some ideas. Hopefully, because some people are OCD and they only want certain things in certain collections. Like my friend Tommy, who went to TFCon with me, he's got things from all sorts of different lines. He's got G1 Starscream. He's got, I think he's getting like the figure arts Batman. He's got all sorts of different things going on in different areas. RID Scourge, the little one. It's just like, what is going on here? I can't do it. That's not a collection for me. I've got to have my Masterpiece collection. Real quick, I've got Masterpiece Autobots, which as you can see is pretty bare. I've got Masterpiece Cons, which is okay. It's getting there. And then up here we've got like G2 stuff with some guys I'm trying to sell. G2 stuff and Cyberjets, and then just over here I just have a bunch of random shit that I just don't know what to do with them yet. But yeah, there you go. I hope this video wasn't too long. Light won't go away. Go away, light. Go away, light. Oh well. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I'll be back tomorrow with another Masterpieces or another rant of the week, and then also briefly this week is going to be very review light because I don't have very many figures to review, but there's a lot of updates and other things to go through for the week. So there will be content every day, just probably not reviews. So sorry, but yeah, there you go.